So today we're joined by Lisa Vecchio, Senior Director of Marketing at Veed, the AI video creation platform, where she leads creative strategy, storytelling and brand growth for one of the fastest growing platforms, helping creators, marketers and teams make better video faster. Great to have you on the Unified Brand podcast, Lisa. It'd be good to learn a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Well, thanks, Chris, for having me. Really excited to be here. And so a bit about myself. I've been leading marketing for high growth organizations for the last 20 or so years. You'll hear from my accent. I'm American. I grew up kind of starting my career in the States, but it's taken me all over from, spending 5 years in ed tech in Australia to 10 years now here in the UK and Europe. And so whether it's been, startups just starting out through to kind of scale ups where Veed is now to large corporates like Expedia, I've kind of had my hands in different pockets of marketing strategy, brand strategy, PR, growth, ultimately helping these businesses get to their bottom line.
Cool. That's really interesting. So what's the thing you love most about marketing and brand?
So I'm one of these believers who, in my heart, that brand is like the true lever to growth, right? I'm always going to be the person who advocates for brand at the center of your strategy because it's not top of funnel, it's the entire funnel, isn't it? I think even now with LLMs, it's becoming more and more prevalent. I love 2026, brand is back, right? We can actually celebrate the things that we love. So what I think what I enjoy about my job is when I'm able to actually activate brand, right? And actually bring storytelling to the forefront of what we're trying to achieve. The other thing I love is I'm a big integrated marketing advocate. If you understand that philosophy of kind of making sure that all of our channels are singing the same song at the same time. And it means that, in my view, there's not just one lever to pull. It's really how you can create a unified approach to your go-to-market. Because ultimately, marketing isn't one discipline, right? It's made up of so many disciplines of how each part of your go-to-market or your channel strategy has to work together. So it's those two things combined.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love activating brands. And I love the strategic part of it as well. So I can, completely get on board with that totally. So from that perspective, where do you see video fitting in terms of the overarching strategy from a content perspective, but also just from a brand storytelling perspective?
Well, I think video isn't anything new. We've been talking about video being kind of one of these key trends or key levers that marketing organizations or teams need to have in their arsenal for years, 5 to 10 years. And so I think it's absolutely instrumental when you think about where it fits, I think, into your narrative and how you tell stories. So social, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but of course, social is the new search, and it's where everyone's spending their time. It's where people are learning about brands. It's where they're educating themselves and where they're buying, and it's becoming a video first world. So for me, it's a no-brainer. What I'm learning though is everyone knows they need to do video. We did a survey at the end of last year for a campaign we were running. It was called The Ultimate Guide to Video Marketing. And 98% of those people that we surveyed, it was like 800 marketers in the US and Canada, the US and the UK, said 98% said, we know we need video as part of our strategy, right? But then only 38% of them said, I actually feel confident creating it myself. So I think the bigger question is not so much if we need video or how it fits into our strategies, but how can we actually achieve what we want with video to meet our goals? Because I think that's where there's this barrier and there's blocker of actually people saying, we know we need to do it. We've got these brilliant ideas, and it could be anything from scrappy kind of UGC content they want to, put on to tell bring their customer voices to life, all the way through to kind of high production agency style kind of the video, but everyone's a bit stuck, whether it's budgets, whether it's, restraints from the business of getting buy-in, whether thinking they need to be an expert when the reality is they've got tools at their fingertips that can help them get started today.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's interesting because, so I've been doing probably video and podcast content for around about 5 years now, maybe a little bit longer. And initially I was terrified to do any sort of video content. And obviously you do one, you do another, you build on it, you get better. But I would have to say that today you don't need that. There is so many things out there that can help you to develop the content that you want to develop sort of faster, quicker and easier. That actually today is, if the fear of video comes from not wanting to do it because you're worried about doing it on screen, I think that's one thing. And that's something that you actually get over it by doing it and just doing it bit by bit. But I think there should never be a barrier now with regards to the technology side of things or tools, because I think, like you said, it's so much more accessible to develop the content you want. And that's really cool because it gives voices to creators that, there are some really interesting creators and insights and people out there that have got a lot to say. And I think it gives them the opportunity to say it. And anyone that's listening that's worried about creating video content, I would say just go out there and do it because you have something to say and it's important.
I couldn't agree more. I think creating video it's a literacy skill, right? It's something that everyone should kind of have in their back pocket. And it's one of these things you need to start just by starting, right? And get the reps in. I like to use myself as a good use case in the sense that I'm a marketing generalist. I've never been, I like to say like my two biggest weaknesses are, and AI's changed the game a bit, but are Excel and creating decks, right? Everyone in the business knows I'm the worst PowerPoint maker, or PowerPoint's old school, but worst slide deck maker. But I lead marketing, right? Yet I can create a video within 20 minutes and feel confident putting it out on my social because of what's in the tool that gives me that confidence that I can't really mess it up, right? If it's already been like approved by my brand because it's got my logo and my font embedded in the platform, if I'm able to correct my eyes, if I'm not looking at the camera, if I'm able to remove the noise, if I filmed it on the street and didn't realize there was loads of traffic, there's just some basic things that take a basic video and all of a sudden can polish it to make it of a certain quality that even if you don't know what you're doing, you're pressing a couple buttons and AI is doing that magic for you. And I'm not talking about generating content. I'm talking about AI editing, right? To kind of keep things really, really simple for those just starting out.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. I think it's something that has really sped up our kind of production time with kind of videos and things like that, and actually helped a lot with it and improved the quality no end as well. So from back in the day when I was using tools like Premiere and things to edit some of the videos to what you can do now, and I utilize the platform, I use Veed, and it's something that I find really effective and it's a great platform. And in terms of like the magic AI kind of editing in there with the, like you said, the kind of the cut the noises, the kind of silent patches, the audio up kind of lift and stuff like that, it makes a massive difference to take something that before would have taken a long time to edit the audio, the video, the kind of doing all the editing, the cuts and everything. Now you can do it, like you said, at your fingertips, and it outputs something that is polished and ready, and it cuts in the right places as well, which is a really interesting thing. It can do. It like picks the right places to cut in, which is cool. So yeah, it's amazing what the platform can do and how much it's sped up our production time, and also the quality in terms of from the audio to the cuts and the editing's been really good.
That's great to hear. I think also when you talk about everyone has like a creator in them, anyone can do it. There's also like an accessibility, I think, opportunity there as well. You talked about, just some polishes and things that we call pizza toppings at time, right? Like how do you create something simple and then add all these flavors on top to make it really pop? But you think about adding subtitles, something that businesses and agencies used to have to outsource to, and it was expensive and then it had long lead times and that. Now you're just pressing a button and you're deciding how pretty you want to make them or how on brand you want to make them or how like wow you want to make them. And then you're translating them to different languages. And, all of these things mean that your brand can reach, far, far further than you would have maybe in a traditional setting a handful of years ago. And also having things like subtitles is, as I mentioned, accessibility. Like it's a no-brainer when it comes to being inclusive and is even a law, right, in certain countries that you need to abide by. So it's just some things that people should think about when they're thinking about what kind of the output should be, right, in terms of what good looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And that was one of the things that led us to the platforms initially was looking at the subtitle side of things. So how can we generate subtitles that look good, that were easy to sort of produce and stuff? And actually that was one of the first reasons why we were drawn to certain platforms. But once you're there and you're using the software, it's just there's a lot of other stuff in there, like you said, the kind of the pizza toppings, but then you've got the access to kind of stock video, stock audio, all those things that are just really useful. The brand kit that you can save stuff in, so you've got those assets that you can reuse is really cool. Like game changer in terms of not having to try and find that brand kit, that logo, that you've been trying to look for, and it's it's in the right place. So yeah, no, it's been really cool. One thing I love that you mentioned earlier on is you talked about utilizing video in different ways across different channels. And one of the things I love from a brand perspective and telling stories is obviously video, you can have long form, you can have educational, you can have inspirational, you can have ad based, you can have brand, you can have small micro moments, UGC that you talked about. You can have those little micro stories on something like a TikTok or something. From your perspective, what are some of the things that you sort of recommend businesses to do and brands to do when it comes to a mix of content from a video perspective?
Yeah, it's a big question. I think we'd always start with what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Where are your customers? What channels are they on? Like, taking that strategic approach before you jump in is definitely necessary. I think thinking about where your audience is, like I just mentioned, will depend on what types of video you do. But I would maybe encourage people to think about how your employees and customers can be leveraged is one avenue. So employee advocacy is so powerful. We see on LinkedIn that thought leadership ads are becoming one of the kind of highest performance channels. And so thinking about who you have in your organization, I saw a post on LinkedIn this week around, there's so many examples out there, but like 11 Labs, Lovable, you think about these super high growth brands, and what makes them excellent brands is a lot of things. But one of those is the people who are representing their brands who are inside their business, right? You've got founders and heads of departments and engineers, with 10, 15, 20,000 followers who all of a sudden have been doing all the advertising for you. And then you put some money behind that and you boost it. And it's a different voice giving context to your brand and your storytelling. Another version of that is your customers. Chris, as you were talking, I'm like, I'm going to take this video and I'm going to turn it into an ad. This is brilliant. And you think about, how you can leverage your customers. We think about testimonials and case studies, and sometimes the first thing you think of is that long PDF that gets sat on your website and never gets looked at by anyone that you want your sales team to send out. But ultimately capturing a customer quote in, 5 to 10 seconds that can go out on your socials is going to be a much more powerful way to reach a new audience and represent your brand in a way that, just your own brand voice couldn't. And I think that is something that we all know, but it's becoming even more prevalent, is people want to hear from people. They don't want to hear from brands. Brand accounts are getting less traction on social than they've ever been. It's not about follower counts anymore. It's about reach. I think the next thing that comes to my head then is like how you're considering influencers and creators and their own reach to represent your brand. And a lot of that is done through video content. Again, platform of choice depending on where your audience is, but really thinking about how they can be not just a brand engine for you, but a growth engine. Here at Veed, creator partnerships has become our most CAC efficient channel that we have on a growth side. So those partnerships are super important to us because they represent our ideal customer profile. They use our tool and they're able to reach people far further. Those are just kind of three ways I'm thinking about, what brands should be thinking about. There's a whole flip side to that. And that's kind of how you could maybe leverage generated content. And I think this is a spicy one that's got a lot of conflicting opinions, but without kind of going into it, like too much into anyway, I'll just say it. I think there's a few use cases that we've seen work really well. The first is actually all of the ads that we're running at the moment are UGC style generated content. So we've actually reduced our cost on ads by 60%. When I say cost, it's cost of acquisition. So by actually these ads are performing better than previous ad sets we had. They look 100% natural. You really wouldn't know because the quality is that good of these characters that we've generated through our platform. And we've also reduced production time by three times. So we're actually seeing like efficiencies internally and able to get this stuff out. Another example I'd say is how you bring color to your video to give it context. So a lot of people are familiar with the term B-roll. Maybe you're doing a customer interview, you want to go and capture, the streets outside or inside the office or, what have you. But now you can think about how you can make your content much more compelling and resonate through generating contextual aspects of your storytelling with AI. And again, that's going to save you some time and also hopefully have a better impact in how it performs because it's a bit more interesting. And then you have your normal stuff, your product explainers, your demo videos. Those are kind of the most common use cases that I think we come across.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I like the idea of the thought leadership ads with utilizing kind of those employees. I think that have something to say, that are, they're really embedded in the brand. They're the front line of the culture sort of thing. I think that's a really cool thing to tap into. And yeah, I think I've seen some things as well, like video FAQs and stuff, which are really quite an interesting idea, like a cool idea to do, I think. And just also as well, just even in some of our funnels where we've looked at where can we add video to make it just more engaging and get something across that you wouldn't be able to get across without video. Because, a picture says 1,000 words, well, the video says 1,000 pictures, so it's kind of like, what are you trying to say in that time? It's you've got you can get something across really well in video that you'd struggle to do in any other medium, I think. And it could be more engaging, like you said. And before we came on, like I said to you about the idea of the generated content, and I said about last year with the Jaguar rebrand, I needed to do some piece of content on it. I couldn't do it because my eye was kind of swollen up like a golf ball at the time. And so I utilized the platform to kind of take one of my YouTube videos, and it kind of recreated me to be able to do a hook at the beginning, and then I could do the rest through audio. Bit I wouldn't have been able to record it because I look like Rocky at the end of Rocky 1, kind of massive swollen eyeball. So it really helped with that. And it didn't look any different. And it was, yeah, it was just basically perfect for that kind of use case. And I love the idea of bringing those characters in as well sometimes and utilizing that in different ways. I think is quite cool.
I think it's incredibly cool. Like, unfortunate that you had that happen to your face
Yeah.
that day. And I don't mean to laugh, but also, like, you wouldn't have been able to do that before, right? And you were able to kind of meet your deadline, be creative, think outside the box, and within a couple of minutes, whip up a version that, worked for your needs. And I think that's where we are seeing, you think about a use case being an executive, a CEO of a company who just is camera shy or doesn't have the time to, record that internal comms video or even that announcement for their new product that they want to push out on social. Now with, I don't love the term avatar, but yeah, like with an avatar of that person, now you can have your comms team, with their sign off, script it, have his or her voice already, pre-recorded, and then get content out in that aspect. Or you think about sales teams, right, who are sending in-mail messages to try and get new clients, and that, video messages are becoming more and more prevalent, and you can actually create one video and use AI to change the, hey Chris, hey Mike, hey Matt, and it's the same content but feeling ultra personalized. There's just a lot of fun that I think, going back to the point of people who are feeling intimidated or not sure where to start, it doesn't always have to be your face on camera, in a setting like this. There's ways to kind of, one of the products we launched last year was our own proprietary model called Veed Fabric. And basically the concept is that you can upload any image and then have that image talk. And so what's great is, like, I take my headshot and I put it into Nano Banana and I'm like, make me 80s glam, make me have purple hair, make me look like a witch. I made this like really silly video during Halloween where I was all these different spooky characters, and I was like jumping from scene to scene using like AI transitions. And I think you could make yourself a cartoon if you wanted to, or a dog, or anything, and still try and get your message out and have fun with it. And I remember speaking to someone who was a small agency owner going like, yeah, but you work in marketing and it's okay that you put these videos out. Like, I'm a founder and I'm very serious. And I was like, but what if you weren't? Like, what if you still, before every podcast episode, just created a fun clip at the beginning that gave it a little bit more color and personality? I think, going back to your brand, how you want your brand to show up. And in this instance, it was in B2B. And I'm a very, very big advocate of, B2B. We should take all the learnings from B2C, right, and build them into the way that we think about going to market. Is, video isn't just for B2C. Video isn't just for advertising or for companies that have big budgets and can work with large agencies. It's for everyone, no matter what your business size is. And we see so many founders, so many what we call like solopreneurs or small business owners. And, if you're a creator, you're a founder because you're running a business, right? Really think about how they leverage video to grow their personal brand or their small business. And video is probably one of the most cost efficient, like far reaching ways they can do so.
Yeah, 100%. I when you were talking earlier on about B-roll and talking about that sort of stuff, and what you just said there, it made me think of what we used to do when creating video and certain things like that. Was you'd almost settle. So you'd either settle for stock that you could find that was right for the particular use case that you wanted to use, or you'd settle for a particular shoot or creative kind of angle that you'd put together. And it could be amazing, but you're always kind of, in a lot of cases, there was a compromise in terms of a compromise of creativity based on what you could produce or the budget you had, or that sort of thing. The cool thing about the tools that we have at our disposal now is there isn't a settling side of things. If your imagination can think about it, you can create it. And that can actually be quite liberating in a lot of ways and build a lot of freedom with what you can do then with video and what that could actually become in terms of what you could use it for. Like you just said there's some really cool things. When you were saying that, I was thinking, I'm a Star Wars geek on May the 5th, May the 4th, sorry, be with you.
Yeah.
I could do a Star Wars video. There's me, doing the AI kind of selfie with all the different Jedi or something like that. It'd be completely sad and everyone would think it'd be geeky, but it'd be fun to do.
It'd be fun to do. And you'll probably get engagement, right? Because it's different.
Yeah.
Your point, the report that we launched, it's similar point. I think we said from the report, 59% of those we surveyed said that they end up putting content out, even now, that's just good enough because of the pressure they feel to meet deadlines, or it's taking them too long to get what they need to get done. Different, I think, in the sense of it. Well, and it may be also because you're still doing big shoots, or you're spending $5,000 on a customer story to fly someone out to go, spend an hour with an executive in a in a hotel room or whatever hotel lobby, not a hotel room necessarily. But I think that's because, if you're not already a skilled video editor or you aren't kind of early adopter of some of these AI tools, you just don't know how accessible it it really can be. And that's why, going back to the point of, I think, creating videos should be, a basic literacy skill, like prompting is, because you're never going to get these things right always the first time. But the more you iterate, the more you practice, the more you have fun, experiment, try things, the more you're going to get better outputs and then realize, oh, I can. Let me take it the next step further. Let me take it the next step further. Yeah, I think it goes back to, I did a post yesterday about something we built as a team exercise in Lovable as like a little internal hackathon last week. And I'm like, this is 100% my responsibility as a leader to build a culture internally where I give my team space to experiment and to try new things with AI and actually figure it out. And I think that's really, really important, because if you're a marketing leader or an agency or a studio leader and you're expecting your team to churn the same level of content out because now you're shipping a product every day instead of every 6 weeks, because of like the pace that AI, products are kind of being shipped as well. You need to give your teams time to upskill and to figure out what the right tools are for them. So I think we're at this interesting point in time where, like, a tipping point almost, where, yeah, we need to bring people along with the journey as these things evolve.
Yeah, I love that as well from your perspective as a brand. So I love the idea of developing that culture internally that is based on trying new things, innovation, pushing boundaries. That must be awesome and quite, again, liberating internally, and kind of ties into the brand itself and what the brand's looking to do. And that actually leads me on really nicely to a question I was going to ask, which is, what does this year hold for Veed, and what does kind of the future hold? What's on the roadmap?
In terms of product or brand?
Bit of both. Yeah, just what you're looking to do this year.
So for me, a couple of things. One is, we're going to continue to innovate in the AI space. We were born as a really easy, simple, accessible video editor, and that is our bread and butter. But, last year we really, really accelerated our presence in the generative AI space as well. We, as I mentioned, built our own model, but we also have all of the latest kind of models that are out there, whether it's Google's VO or Sora, OpenAI Sora and Kling. And, we're really looking at, where the innovation is coming from and how we can use Veed to help people really start with an idea. Because I think one of the biggest blockers, going back to our chat earlier, is like, sometimes people are like, I just don't know how to get the thing done that I have in my idea. And the biggest challenge is like, I already don't have content I need to edit. I actually need content to start with. And so we really want to change the story from not just being seen as an editor, but an AI video creation platform where really anyone can start with an idea. And whether that idea is them uploading a video that already exists and making it beautiful, or starting with an idea and prompting to turn that idea into exactly what they need it to be. And I think that's a unique proposition for us, is there's not a lot of tools at the moment where you're generating and editing a final publishable video all in one workflow. You're not exporting and importing from different platforms. You can do it all there. And so we're going to continue down that path. From a marketing perspective, how I then take that proposition and take our brand and make sure that that gets heard and felt with our community is really important. And so I really think community and the community marketers is so strong and powerful, and I want to continue to build relationships there. So my strategy is centered around community-led growth, whether that's education through masterclass series that we can host online. Our London office, where I'm based, is a really cool hub in Shoreditch where we try and host live events like weekly, if not a couple times a month, and bring people together. So tomorrow, in partnership with Google, I'm hosting a prompt school, and it's going to be all about image and video generation. I've got like a wait list I can't possibly fill in the space that we have. So really just thinking about how we can bring people along this journey when it comes to video literacy and help them upskill, and whether that's generating or, again, doing all those pizza toppings and polishing, because I think that's really where confidence comes from, is having people hands-on and being able to experience the reps. So those are my two priorities. I'd say there's another thing that's new, and that's actually that we released our first API at the end of last year as well. So if you are a brand that wants to integrate video within your existing tool set and you need an API to plug into that, you can use our my computer image to video model or lip sync model and kind of build that into. So we're seeing other video AI generation platforms actually put our model in theirs, right, as a diversification source. And that means as we see more workflows coming up, I'm sure the designers out there and the creatives out there, you're looking at tools like Weavy or make.com or ways that you can actually connect your entire workflow. We just launched our integration with N8N a couple of weeks ago, which is just one of those, but we're going to be adding more and more. So people who are already wanting to, like, let's say maybe start in a spreadsheet with like a whole load of ideas in Google Sheets and then push those scripts into something like 11 Labs to auto record all your voiceovers, and then push that into Veed, let's say, to then create your video, push that out to, let's say, a platform that you want to publish in. There's so many different workflows like anyone can create to scale these types of content needs. And I think that's a trend that we're only going to see more and more of from different types of brands who want to plug all of their different tools together and really create like the best workflow for them to batch scale content. Doesn't mean we don't need humans, of course. We definitely need oversight for all of this. But I think when it comes to volume plays, especially with like, Meta's new algorithm, I'm never great at knowing how to pronounce it because in my head it's like Andromeda, but it's Andromeda. Andromeda is the way you meant to say it. Yeah, that has changed the expectation for how you actually scale content, right? And so we need to create new systems for this, and we're just paying a lot of attention to those shifts happening within creative teams as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is really cool. I like that, and I like the idea you said about the workflows as well. I think there's, that's really got me thinking about some interesting things in reactions of people asking questions. Suddenly there's now something created with the scripts. You've now got a video. So like there's almost like quite an interesting workflow that could be done with that kind of thing. Responding to comments and stuff, that kind of stuff. Be really cool. But there's two questions I ask every guest. And so the first one is, what drives you mad about your industry?
To be honest, right now what's driving me mad is like, I'm super curious, I'm super plugged in, and I'm exhausted. I can't keep up. It's just happening like beyond pace of, when you're in the video world, in the social media world, and you're on it all day at work, it means when you try and turn off and go on it at home on your phone, it just follows you everywhere. You can't really escape it. So it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I bet actually, I can imagine that. Yeah, you just try and switch off and turn the phone on and it's just there. So yeah, I can.
You have a new idea and you're like, oh, can I email the team? And, you're just never stopping.
That's cool. That's exciting though as well. But yeah, it must be draining as well. So yeah, I totally understand. And then the other thing I always ask is there a brand that you've seen at the moment? It could be somebody that you're working with, or it could be just a brand that you've noticed that is really sort of crushing it when it comes to, it could be a creator as well, really crushing it when it comes to their video content.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of respect for Alec at 11 Labs. He was actually our first YouTuber and video person here at Veed before I ever joined. But he's absolutely killing it when it comes to their YouTube strategy and their LinkedIn content in terms of really breaking down practically, how AI and voice come together to, create great content. I think there's a regular drumbeat, like he's got the right pace, he's got the right balance of technical, practical, but also like inspiring. I think they do a great job.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you. Where can people find out more about you and more about Veed?
Sure. Well, I can be found on LinkedIn. That's the best way to contact me. So happy to put the link in the bio. Happy to also share a link out to the report that I mentioned, the Ultimate Guide to Video Marketing. And if you want to learn more about Veed, you can go to veed.io or any of our social channels to reach out as well.
Cool. That's awesome. I'll put those links in the show notes, but it's been a great conversation. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate it.